What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh. Behind me, I have the Bluetti AC240 newly released power station, and we're going to find out that this thing is truly water resistant. So when it comes to the world of overlanding, van life, living off-grid, a portable power station is kind of part of the way it works. Everyone needs some type of power to keep their adventures going longer and longer. And in my van, if you guys are new here, then you do not know this. If you're not new here, then you probably know this. In my van, I have an AC200 Max with a B300 battery backup. That is what runs all the electricity and all the electrical components inside my van. I have a whole video on how I wired it, what I did, and I will put that up in one of the corners, so you can go check that out if you're interested in that type of content, if you're interested in how to see how this system or a system similar to the AC240 that's sitting behind me actually works. Now, roughly 3 weeks ago, this bad boy arrived at my front door. Bluetti reached out and they asked if I wanted to try their new AC240. And they gave me some specs, some information about it, and it sounded like a pretty good fit for the things that I do. So I said, absolutely, send it over and I will start using it. Now, what I've been using this unit for may differ from what you intend to use it for. It's impossible for me to come up with every scenario or give a specific instance for everybody's possible usages. What I can do is tell you how I've been using it, what my intended use is for it. We're gonna dump some water on this bad boy and see if it actually works. And that should help you understand. So what I wanna do is just kind of start talking through some of the technical aspects of the AC240, give you some information, and then we'll talk about some real life practical uses, what I use it for, and how it's worked for me so far. Okay, so before we get into all of the buttons and how everything works, what I want to discuss is the IP65 rating that this power station comes with. Now, the IP65 water resistance and dust proof level is basically telling you that the product is dust tight to save from intrusion from particles and resilience against water jets from any angle, excluding high pressure water jets. Now, I don't know what type of high pressure, or I'm not sure what type of water jet is not high pressure, but that's kind of besides the point. So if you're familiar with the Bluetti products, the one thing I want to say about this is it is 1,536 watt hours. The reason I bring that up is because the AC200 Max that I have currently inside my van is 2,048 watt hours. And these two units, the AC200 Max and the AC240 that we're looking at right here, are relatively the same exact size. So I'm not exactly sure why this unit is so much bigger than I guess it needs to be. I am assuming that it is because some of the ports or all of the ports have a much different inlet and outlet. So they look much more robust, and I don't know if that means the internal pieces are bigger. There is no reason a power station that has 25% less battery capacity should be as big, if not a little bit bigger. It may actually be a little bit taller. This thing is not small, nor is it light. I'm not exactly sure why, but I wanted to say that because you would assume that something of this caliber with this many watt hours would be roughly 25% smaller than what it is. So I'm only mentioning that because I was extremely shocked of how big the unit actually is once I unboxed it, but that does not take away from some of its awesome features. Okay, so just like all of the other Bluetti products, in order to turn anything on, you need to press a button. So if you want your DC on, you press it twice if the screen is off, once if the screen is on. Now your DC ports are on. You have a 12 volt DC 10 amp output and a 12 volt DC 30 amp output. Now, the 30 amp output on this unit is what I have running on my 200 Max. This output is also available on the 200 Max, and it runs my entire van off of that 30 amps. Turn your DC off, turn your USBs on. In other iterations of the Bluetti products, you didn't have to turn these on, but for whatever reason, they do have a specific button that requires you to press it to turn them on. Your AC ports, same thing, turn them on. And I will say that these AC ports are built much more robust than the ones on my 200 Max. The ones on my 200 Max are just normal AC ports that you would find looks like almost in a house. These are much more robust. You could tell that they're waterproof and they're watertight and they're water sealed. And I would also go out on a limb and say these covers are what prevent water from getting inside the AC ports and inside all of these ports. I don't necessarily think that the components themselves are water resistant. I just think if you have these shut or you have something plugged in and it gets wet, nothing's going to happen. At least that's what it's been claimed so far. The one thing I don't like is that in order to turn the screen on, it's not touch screen. So you can't just tap it to see how much battery power you have or to see how much watts are going in or going out. You actually have to press one of these buttons and it'll light the screen up, and then you press the button again to get it to work. I know it's a small thing. I'm not sure why it is, but on my AC200 Max, I just touch the screen and it comes right on. You would think that that type of technology would transfer over. Maybe it has something to do with the IP65 rating, but this is basically the front of the unit. This is everything you get. This is exactly how it works. You get 2 USB-Cs, 2 USB-As. These two on the bottom, the USB-As are 18 watts, and the USB-Cs up top are both 100 watts. Now you have an AC output at 120 volts at 2400 watts. So it can power a lot of stuff. This thing can definitely power a chop saw, a miter saw, probably a table saw. I mean, you could do a lot with this. Now it's going to burn through some battery pretty quick because those big, hungry components require a lot of power. And here's what I mean when I talk about the screen. Once the screen turns off, it's off, and you have to press a button to turn it back on. I know that may seem silly, but sometimes it's a little bit inconvenient, but I mean, it just is what it is. And any of these 3 buttons will light up that main screen and tell you exactly what you need to know. Okay, so before we move on from the front, I do want to mention that this is a NEMA TT30 port. So this is basically your boat and RV power supply port. It's not the same as your 2 lower AC ports that take, normal cables. This would be for your RV or your boat. Now, another thing that you can do with the AC240 is you can run 2 of them parallel together, which is going to double your power from 2400 watts on the AC side up to 4800 watts. Obviously, none of that equipment comes with this unit, and you would need another one to double its capacity, but that has the capacity to do that. You could also pair one of these with a P480 for instant intelligent use, and you can directly connect those to your AC if you did your AC grid in your home, if you did have some sort of power outage. All right, so before we get into all of these ports, what they do, I wanted to touch on the BMS that is inside the unit. So this does come with a battery management system already installed. Most, if not all, of your portable power stations these days have an internal BMS. So it's not really that rare or an extreme selling point, but it does have it in there. And what it does is protect against overcharging, over-discharging, overcurrent. It helps regulate the temperature, the diagnostics, and the reporting capabilities. So it's something that's good to have, and it's good to know that it's in there. The one thing I will say about this unit in particular is Bluetti had made mention of how quiet this product's run noise is when the fans are on. You can see both of the fans right here through this plastic grate, and I'm going to be honest, I forget the decibels that they quoted. I want to say sub 50 or something of that nature. Do not quote me on that, but it's really not that quiet. When I record videos in the gear shed, which is where we are today, and this fan kicks on, it can be picked up on my lavalier mic. And this is not a large space, but it's definitely not a small space. And I have a lot of sound deadening going on in here. So it's really not that quiet. I don't think it matters for most people, but what I use this for, and the reason that this is in my gear shed, is for recording videos like this. So when the fans kick on and I can hear it over my lavalier mic, it's not the greatest sound. So, and it's really hard to remove. So I have to be careful at how hot it is outside or inside the gear shed while I'm recording my videos, because these fans kick on and it does become kind of a pain in the butt. Okay, so what we have is Bluetti is stating that this unit can have a PV, which is your solar power charge speed, of 1.3 hours to 80% charging. And the PV max input, so the maximum amount of solar that you can put into this thing, is 1200 watts. So if you're running 1200 watts, you should be able to charge this thing to 80% in 1.3 hours. So what I want to show you real quick is the new connector and adapter that they put on all of their cords. I currently have this connected to my solar outside, and it's a much better piece of equipment than what was on the old Bluetti systems. The old Bluetti systems had this blue ring, but it was threaded, and you could spin it, and you would basically thread it on to your input, and then that's how you would tighten it down. But this is like a lock click. It's really nice. All you do is put it in, and it clicks. No more turning it, and to release it, you twist it to the left and pull it out. So I will give Bluetti some credit on this new design, but there's a huge problem with this new design. And the way that this new design is set up means none of the new units are capable of being plug and play with the old units. And what I mean by that is this AC240 cannot sit on top of my B300 inside my van and run my B300 because the adapters are no longer the same. So it's kind of a pain. I understand why they would do it. They're innovating and making their products better, so for that I appreciate. But for those of us who have been using Bluetti products for quite a while, that's kind of a pain in the butt. But anyways, this is where you put your solar into your unit. The BMS controls everything from there. It is a cloudy, rainy day here in Tucson, unfortunately. So if I plugged it in, you probably wouldn't see much coming into the unit, if any at all. And this is your AC parallel port. So this is what you can use. It's a different adapter, but you can hook two of the AC240s up together and double your watts. The volts remain the same, but it does double your watts, doubles all of the amount of power that you have just by connecting them together, which is pretty cool. Again, if this is going to be a house backup, that probably makes sense, but if it's not a house backup, then it probably doesn't make much sense at all. Down on the bottom is your AC input, and this is where you plug in for your wall power. So just to charge it up, that's where you plug it in at, and this unit will charge, I believe it was charging close to 600 watts when I had it plugged in for the first time, just to get it up to 100 before I put my solar panel on it. So that's same type of adapter, same type of everything, just plug it in and you can plug it into your wall. It also has a bleed valve, which honestly, I'm not going to get too far into that because I don't think is going to be necessary for 99.9% of people, so we can kind of breeze through that and we'll flip it around and take a look at the other side. Okay, the other side. So the only thing on the other side is your input for your battery expansion. So if you want to expand your batteries and you want to add an additional P480 or two P480s, which you can go up to two of the P480s to connect to the AC240, that this is the port that you would use. It's the only thing on this side. That's really it. And we can spin it around on the back and just check the technical specs on the back before we go dump water on this thing. So on the back, you'll see all of your technical specs. I'm not going to dive into those because we pretty much already did. But one thing that's really cool with the Bluetti products, and most products now come with a Bluetooth feature, but this little QR code is all you have to scan in order for you to be able to connect this through Bluetooth to your phone and add it to your app. So if you ever see these on here and you wonder what the heck they are, that's what they are. It allows you to connect that to your app, which is actually really easy because sometimes they will fall out of your app and you don't want to have to type in a big long serial number, although that's a possibility too. You just scan that QR code and then you're able to hook it directly back up to your app and then control it through your app as long as the Bluetooth is on inside the power station itself. All right, well, there we go. I mean, I gotta admit, it got soaking wet in rain for 15 minutes, and she's still working. So the IP65 rating must actually mean something. Now, don't get crazy. Don't throw it in your pool. You know, I don't think that's gonna work well for anybody. But I'm extremely impressed with its ability to take that much rain and then bring it right in here, wipe it down, turn it on, plug my light in, and everything works. It's not glitching. I wanted to check that. Yeah, it's not glitching. I mean, nothing's happening. It's good. It's perfectly fine. So there's a link in the description for the AC240. If you're interested in checking this out or you want to purchase one for yourself, please do it through that link. It greatly helps the channel. And I have to say that I am thoroughly impressed with the new technology that Bluetti has put out for their AC240. Minus its size, I think it's bigger than it needs to be. I'm sure that there's a reason for that. But if size is or space is not a huge problem for you and you want something that's durable, maybe to work on a job site or to do stuff outside of your home and you need some additional power, this little guy can definitely do the trick. So if the video was helpful, I would appreciate you to like it, subscribe to the channel so you can come along for more adventures, more reviews, more things that we do here. And until next time, I'll see you on the next one.